This is Jay Horwitz, another edition of Amazing Conversations with all-time Giant great Tiki Barber. As a Giant season ticket holder since 1958, it's a real pleasure for me to have you on, Tiki. Two quick funny stories. 2004, I'm in the press box at Shea Stadium. Jim Duquette, brings Chris Benson, who just got in the train, gives me a dog, a little Scottish Terrier. In the press, I thought it was a stuffed animal. I wanted him naming the dog Tiki, okay? For 15 years, the dog was alive, died just about a year or two ago. The other thing, probably my most embarrassing moment as a Met person, I don't know if you remember, after the Super Bowl, which we lost to in Tampa to Baltimore,
Yeah.
I had you, Strahan, and Kerry Collins out to watch the first pitch.
Yep.
I ordered uniforms. Everybody knows I'm a diehard Giant fan. Barber 21, good. Strahan 92, good. I give Kerry Collins, for some reason, number 5, which wasn't his number. And he was very polite about it. He said, that's not my number. It's number 12. So I felt like such a jerk. I'm this gigantic Giant fan. I can't even get the freaking numbers right.
Well, you know why? It's because of the 5 interceptions he threw in the game.
That could be. Hey, listen, first of all, congratulations on the Jersey Hall of Fame, coupled with the Virginia Hall of Fame. You said Springsteen was there?
Bruce showed up to induct his wife, and he was last out. Actually, he was second to last out. Then they had Tony Orlando came out and did a routine at the end. So it was nice. There was a lot of great people there, a lot of great names, and a fun event, including Governor and Tammy Murphy from New Jersey, who I'm friendly with because she's a UVA grad like me.
Yeah. So I'm prejudiced, but how are you not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Only per NFL history, over 10,000 yards rushing, 5,000 passing, over 1,000 in returns.
Yeah.
22 Giant records, 4 games over 200 yards, 234 against Washington. Why do you think it's because they didn't win a championship when we were there? What do you?
Well, I think for quarterbacks and coaches, the championships matter. But for running backs, it's really about getting in the room and letting them have the conversation about you. So I found this out last year when my brother got inducted. The only thing he wanted was to have them have the conversation about him, right? I'm not saying I deserve to be a Hall of Famer. It's just talk about me. And the only way for that to happen is to get into the finals. And that vote's happening in a couple of weeks. So, maybe I get into the finals and they can have a conversation and talk about those things that you talked about, the 10,000 yards rushing and 5,000 yards receiving. Only 2 other people have that. That's Marshall Faulk and Marcus Allen.
And he averaged about 5 yards a carry, which is phenomenal.
7 yards a carry, and most of it came at the end of my career. So maybe that's what it is. I didn't hit the NFL with a splash as a rookie or second year.
Can I give you a parallel thing with the Mets? 2 years ago, we got Gil Hodges gotten into the Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. He was on 33 consecutive ballots, didn't get in. We got an advocate in the room, like you say. Joe Torre advocated for him. He was in Brooklyn, and Vince Scully did something, and he got in, by 1 vote. But you have to have somebody in your, not politicking, but
Jay, that's what it is. It's politicking. It's you vote for my guy. Let's look at, in 5 years, I'll vote for your guy. That's really what it comes down to. And I've been lucky over the last couple of years because Gary Myers, formerly of the Daily News and a good friend of mine, has kind of taken up the cause. And, he's just started advocating for me. And, hopefully it makes a little bit of a difference. In some cases, like with Tim Brown, who took a long time to get in himself, the great wide receiver from the Oakland and LA Raiders, he had to hire a PR firm, right, in order to just get the word out there. And it's not that these guys, including myself, aren't deserving. It's just that sometimes you start to slip from people's consciousness. And in order to have a chance to get into the Hall of Fame, you got to be front of mind and be reminded about some of the good things or great things that we as former players did when we were on the gridiron.
Yeah, I saw Gary last at the Commander game. I loved his book. Especially with Parcells sitting by the ocean by himself before a day game, where I thought that pretty, you did pressure all your life, when you came into the Hampton, for the Evan and Tiki show at WFAN, of course, when you took that show earlier this year, it was a tough spot. You're in a time slot, Mike Francesa, Craig Carton.
Yeah.
Did you feel any kind of pressure, that different when you weren't at the network?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, I worked 11 years with BT on Tiki and Tierney, and that was mostly national. The last year of our run together with me and BT, we went to WFAN, but it was the midday, and so it was a little bit lighter. It was a little bit less pressure filled. We could just be ourselves and talk sports and have fun. But when Spike Eskin and Chris Olivero brought me in and suggested that they might want to move me, it in some ways it was exciting. I mean, I didn't even think about the pressure of who had preceded me in that time slot, but it was an exciting opportunity. And Jay, you've known me for a long time, or known about me for a long time. I've never turned down opportunities, whether it was going to work at Fox News or the Today Show or doing a Broadway play for 7 weeks. If it's presented to me and I feel like I can do it well, I'm going to jump at it and not fear the failure. And so, yeah, there was certainly pressure, but I also know that I can only just be myself, right? I can't try to be Craig Carton and find funny ways to talk about whatever, right? I can't be Mike Francesa and have this ingrained knowledge from decades of knowing New York sports and having the pulse of the people. All I can be is Tiki Barber from Southwest Virginia, who came to New York, lived in the city, and had a pretty good career. But along the way, made a ton of different relationships in myriad walks of life, but also loved sport. And so I try to learn every day. Right? I know I don't know everything about baseball or basketball. I know a lot about football. And so I feel like I learn as I go. And it helps me because I don't come off as knowing everything. I just kind of, I don't know. I just like I'm having a conversation with someone at a bar. That's what it feels like to me.
Are you conscious of the ratings, Tiki, and all? I mean, some of the papers publish it, with the Michael K stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, are
Yeah.
you
I mean,
conscious of that
I,
stuff, or
I am, but not really. So when I first came over to WFAN, because on the national level, we don't even we don't even care about ratings. I don't even know if we get a measurement. And so for the last year and a half, Spike has talked about it. BT is very conscious of it. Evan is very aware of it. But to me, I don't have the context of what it means, right? The only thing it means to me is yes, you're doing your job well, or you're not. But I know that the only thing I can do is be myself, right? I can't change to try to fix a rating or to grow a rating. All I can do is hope that people understand what I'm trying to be or what I'm trying to say and the message and the stories that I'm trying to get out.
it seems like I'm a listen all the time. You brought a different take to the show, getting more people involved, like with Sean Marsh. This
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
player. You got the Cinco de Mayo stuff at 5 o'clock. Was
Yeah.
that a conscious thing to change the show around a little bit, or get more
Yeah, well,
people?
I think what we want, Jay, is appointment listening, and so every day Sean does Cinco de 5-0, and he's like the perfect foil. Like he's some comic relief, but he's a passionate fan, right? With the Yankees and
You let him get involved too. I mean, he's not
yeah,
just
yeah, of course. But then we also we have a good crew behind us from Anthony Gallo, who puts out all the social, and Tom Izzo, who is the director of over Gallo, who created Bad Tiki, and that was a
what
surprise.
is bad? Tell me what's bad,
So
Tiki.
Bad Tiki is an AI, and they were messing around with voices. Let's see if we can mimic Evan's voice. Let's see if we can mimic Craig's voice. And it didn't really work because it didn't sound like either one of their voices. But when I got hired to the afternoon drive show, they tried to mimic my voice, and it sounded exactly like me. And so
Yeah,
they decided to do a gimmick because I come off as this very nice person. Let's get the alter ego of
yeah, I got you.
and
I
call it
got
Bad Tiki. And so he says everything that I'll think, but will never, ever, ever say. And so we do it every Thursday. So we've created these appointment listens throughout the week, which are fun and entertaining. They're not overwhelming because we always want to talk sports and have fun and have those conversations with our listeners. But we have a unique crew. The crazy thing, Jay, is that I don't feel old, but I am the old man on
right. I hear. So Evan is a Jet fan. You've told me before you try and walk the line,
yeah,
but I think what you grew is great with the Giants is you're giving them hope and not trying to lay out some stuff that could happen, not to be so defeatist like with
yeah,
like you were right on with Theobald. I mean, Waller got
Yeah,
criticized and he had a breakout game last week. And what you and Carl Banks have been saying. I mean, but you don't hit people over the head. You
no.
know,
Well, you know what I'm
yeah.
trying to do, Jay? I'm trying to inform, right? I'm trying to teach in a way, because I think it's one thing to be passionate about sports and have an emotional reaction, but I watch a lot of the games, whether it's the Jets or the Giants, dispassionately. So I have it's called True Media, so I can watch any game over the last 10 or so years, and so I can watch it without the emotion of the broadcast, right? And it's the all 22 or it's the high end zone. And it's just, I see exactly what's happening, as opposed to, oh man, that emotionally moved me, and it clouds what actually was going on. And so as I watch Kayvon Thibodeau, I see him doing a lot of things that don't say, I need to go sack the quarterback. And so I asked myself, why is he doing that? And it's obviously because that's what Wink wants. Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator, that's what he wants. And then once you see him evolving into this role, you appreciate how good he's become. And in critical moments, he's made a lot of great plays for the New York Giants. This is Kayvon. But I think I look at sports very analytically. And I think it's because I grew up a Washington fan, right? And as soon as I got drafted to New York, that fandom had to change, right? It's like, who are you a fan of now? You grew up in DC you love Doug Williams and those Super Bowl teams, the Hogs, etc. But when the paychecks are coming from the Meadowlands, my fandom had to change. And so I became dispassionate as a fan, which allows me to not be biased, but also understand it. I think I also try to see things from inside the organization. Like what would a player think? And this is for the Yankees, the Mets, the Giants, Jets. What would a player think about this criticism? And is it fair? And if it isn't, then I'll expose that. If it is, then I'll say that as well. I mean, I'm not afraid to be critical of people.
You worked with Brandon for 12 years. I mean,
Yeah,
is it hard to get in sync with a new partner?
it
I
is
mean,
a little bit. It is a little bit, but Jay, I could talk to a wall, right? I could talk to anybody in any walk of life, and so it's just a matter of developing the relationship and understanding the quirks of someone. And I love Evan because he's such a nerd, right? He scores
he's
games.
writing a book about scorekeeping,
Yes,
or I
I know. And I bet it's going to be interesting. So I went to it. We went to the Mets Yankees game, the Subway Series, when Rodon pitched, and I sat right next to him. I'm watching him score these games. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, what do those little marks mean? But it allows him to. It's his connection, right? It's his connection to the game. He's been doing it forever, and there's meaning in that for him. And when you understand where he's coming from, as opposed to just judging him, you just try to understand where he's coming from. It allows you to develop a relationship with him, and I think we've got a really good one in the very short time that we've been together.
I've been with the Mets 44 years, Tiki. So when Evan was a youngster, his mother used to call me and get him press passes to come on the field.
That's
And
awesome.
then and when we had our bad times, Evan's a season ticket with his father.
Yep.
He would come to these meetings and he asked pretty pointed questions,
I know.
and I'm cringing in the back and say, "Oh my God!" I mean, he would be afraid to show his fandom,
No.
criticizing Sandy Alderson or something like that. He would be, go right out there, but
Yeah, he
and
would. That's what I like most about him. There's no filter, right? He'll say whatever is on his mind, and it's kind of cool because you don't get
can I be a fan for a second? Two of my
that.
favorite games for you is the 95 yard run against the Raiders and the
Yeah,
234 against Washington.
yeah, those were
That's
great.
a lot of yards.
Yeah, those are great days. I always think back to that Raiders run because it was the longest one in Giant history. Not the longest play. That was the 11 Victor Cruz a touchdown against the Jets. But Luke Pettigrew jumped off sides like the play before, and everybody's like groaning. And in my mind, I'm saying, "Oh wait, I can go 95 yards now." Right? And then we called a play. They knew exactly what was coming, but they cheated and they overplayed it, which allowed me to cut out the back door and go make a big run down the field. But the only reason that play happened, Jay, was because Plexico Burris made a block at the point of attack. Once I got to the backside cornerback, he blocked the backside corner, and then he turned around and blocked the safety. Right. So not only did he do his job at the point of attack, or really kind of the made up point of attack, but he turned around and basically escorted me down the field, as did Amani Toomer, right? So I always tell people I wasn't fast at that point, right? That, yes, it was my touchdown. I was in the record book for it, but it only happened because I had selfless players like Amani and Palexico and David Deal and Sean O'Hara and Chris Snee. Those guys were amazing for me. It's the only reason I rushed for so many yards, including in that last regular season game against the then Washington Redskins,
Right.
where I went for 234 yards and 3 touchdowns. We just had the right plan. And because of the chemistry that I had with my offensive line and my fullback, we were able to do a lot of big things in that game. And honestly, as I look at carry that lesson forward as I evaluate teams like the Giants, it's their biggest issue right now. They don't have the continuity up front offensive line wise, and it's why they can't get any consistency.
Your schedule's crazy. In addition to the show, you do a game every week for CBS.
Yeah.
How crazy? Now you have kids going to cheerleading practice. How crazy is your week to do?
Yeah, it gets a little busy, especially for my wife. Tracy is amazing because she handles a lot of that Ubering. Like, she's an unpaid Uber driver at this point, driving the kids back and forth to cheer competitions. They haven't started competing yet, so they're not traveling. But in about 2 or 3 weeks, she's going to be on the road just like me with the girls, going to Oklahoma and Texas and Ohio and Florida for these big competitions that they go to. But, Jay, I love being busy. I love trying to achieve things. And I consider, WFAN it's like my passion job, because I'm just talking about sports, right? All I have to do is pay attention to sports. The grind is a little bit on the NFL games because, like, for instance, this week I'm going down to New Orleans. I haven't watched New Orleans. So it's spending, 3 days, 2 or 3 days grinding on their tape, grinding on the narrative about their players and the team. And they're playing the Chicago Bears, who we've had earlier. So I have a little bit of familiarity. So it's like a fine balance of finding time to grind on tape, but watch the local sports, develop these opinions, and still have a good family life.
Tiki, let me ask you, when you left in 2006, you were really at the height of your greatness then.
Yeah.
Do you regret doing that? What was it? Just you felt it was just time to leave?
Well, it was a couple things, Jay. I mean, I was getting beat up. I mean, back then, I could go look at my game log. It was 24 carries, 28 carries, 32 carries, as well as 5 or 6
every game.
Every game. Honestly, I didn't want to come off the field. I loved it, but I also knew that it was wearing on me. But the other side of it, that it's not often talked about, because the only thing people focus on is the fact that I left before they won a Super Bowl. Timing's a bitch type of thing. But I was doing a lot of different things outside of the game that were really interesting to me, including meeting Shimon Peres. We met him at Tao, on Uptown Tao. He invites me to go to Israel. He's the sitting premier of Israel at the time. And so we take a 2-week trip to Israel. We visit the Knesset. It's during disengagement, when Ariel Sharon is trying to get the Israelis to move out of these occupied territories. So there's protests happening. So it's this really charged environment. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, the world is so much bigger than the game of football. And it opened my eyes to what else I might want to do with my life. And then I met, Condoleezza Rice, and I'm at the State Department with her. And so all of a sudden, as my body's starting to say, dude, you don't want to do this anymore, my mind is starting to say, you should explore other things that are happening in the world. And it's why I decided to leave and go work for the Today Show, and do a lot of really cool things with them for 3 years, including covering the Olympics. And I was just ready for something else.
I read someplace you interviewed John McCain. It was one of your great interviews.
Yeah, I was doing a radio show on Sirius. So me and Rondé, my twin brother, had a show on Sirius called The Barbershop. It was just about football. But once the off season came, I told Steve Cohen over there, not your Steve Cohen, but Steve,
yes,
I said, I want to do something else.
Yeah.
And he said, well, all right, well, what do you want to do? I said, I just want to do, can we do a show about politics and life and, science and space? He's like, sure. What do you want to call it? So I did this show called The National Sweep, just to talk about whatever. It was only an hour show on Sirius. And my first guest was John McCain. And it was before he ran for president. And it was right near the end of my career. And I remember asking him if he was going to run for president. He's like, "Are you going to play again? Are you going to play another year?" And so we had this like weird like relationship, even though I didn't really know him. I
That's
talked to
great.
the head of NASA. I thought it was fun. It was just different, and it expanded my mind a little bit.
Tiki, when does the vote come up now? The next vote in the Hall of Fame for you?
So the finals, to the vote for the finals happens, and I think the next 3 weeks or so. So by the end of November, that's when the voting for the finals, and then they'll get together. I think in mid January to do the final vote to see who ultimately gets in the Hall of Fame. Around the Super Bowl. So you'll know. I mean, we'll know in the next 3 months whether or not I've made it to the
I,
finals or.
I mean, Gary's so well. I mean, he can get a better advocate than him. I mean,
Oh, Gary is the best.
yeah,
He is the absolute best, and he's done it for many years for the Jets, including Joe Klecko, who just got in from
right.
the Veterans Committee, and that was really all Gary, who lobbied hard for him, and ultimately for Darrelle Revis as well, who got in as a first ballot guy.
One
So
baseball. I'm sorry. One baseball story. A couple of years ago, Harold Baines got into the Hall of Fame.
yeah,
Tony La Russa, his former manager, and Jerry Reinsdorf, former owner of the Whites, were on the committee. So it's all about getting
yeah.
the right place at the
I
right
mean,
time.
you said it. You said it without really even meaning it. It's politicking,
Yeah.
right? It's the world. Everything we do in is lobbying, and it's advocating, and it's having the right friendships and relationships that'll stand up for you or whoever, to try to get done what's right. And so I really appreciate Gary because he doesn't have to do this, but he's
Well, it's
taken
the
on
right
the
thing.
cause.
What's great. Listen, I thank you for your time, and I'm glad I didn't screw your number up. I remember number 21, but Kerry Cott was so gracious with me. He said, "Hey, I get it," and I got him another uniform.
Yeah,
I,
Gary's
I
the
get he,
best.
I got,
Gary.
I vapor. They were laughing at me all the whole day there, but just my little dog used to watch the Giant games with me every Sunday, and we lived a good life, 16 years,
Oh, that's a great
16
life.
times 112 years old.
Oh, I love that. That's
Well,
awesome. Well,
hey, all the best, Tiki. I'll be listening every day, and I really appreciate your time, my friend.